It's just after 6 and the city hasn't quite decided who it wants to be yet. The sidewalks are still wet from an overnight drizzle. The air smells like coffee and car exhaust. And the old window by my desk fogs at the corners where the seal has worn thin. I always start my day here. Same desk, same chipped mug, same glowing rectangle of glass looking out on nothing in particular. Across the street, a laundromat hums softly. My laptop boots up with its quiet little chime. Another day of freelance deadlines, brand guidelines, invoices, messages marked urgent. I sip my coffee and try to wake my body before my inbox does. Lately, though, there's this faint ache between my ribs, like a low note that won't stop playing. I'm 30-something, still paying off design school loans, renting a room in an apartment that belongs more to the plants than to me. Every client call begins with me smiling a little too much. Sure, I can fit that in, I say, as if my worth depends on staying busy. But lately, I keep catching my reflection in that window. Laptop glow on my face, city blur behind me, and I barely recognize who's looking back. Spinoza once said, in his calm, careful way, that freedom is understanding necessity. I don't think I really grasped that until now. He meant that we're most free when we understand what's truly driving us. Not when we can do anything, but when we finally see why we do what we do. That line comes to me every morning while I'm waiting for the Wi-Fi to connect. Maybe freedom isn't quitting everything to move to a cabin. Maybe it's just pausing long enough to notice the invisible strings we've tied around ourselves. The workspace around me buzzes awake. Someone drops their backpack, a printer whirs, and the espresso machine screams like it's fighting for its life. The sound bounces off the concrete walls, and suddenly I feel small, like one of 100 bees in a bright glass hive. There's a plant on my desk, a little pothos I rescued from the clearance rack at a grocery store. Its leaves keep leaning toward the light, even when I forget to water it. I look at that plant and wonder if it's wiser than I am, always turning toward what keeps it alive. Sometimes I scroll through other designers' portfolios and feel both awe and envy. Everyone seems to be thriving. Rebrands for global companies, podcast covers for people with perfect lighting. Meanwhile, I'm here fighting with fonts and paying rent that rises faster than my rates. Still, there are small, quiet joys I almost miss. The smell of warm paper from my sketchbook, the way the light changes at 8 a.m., the old man who sweeps the sidewalk while humming old love songs. If I pay attention, the world is still teaching me something about grace. But attention is slippery. I check my phone again. A notification says, "Your payment is due." Another says, "Reminder, client feedback call at 10. My shoulders tighten. The window reflects the slump in my posture, and it feels like the glass is keeping score. I think about my parents. My dad working double shifts so I could study art. My mom saving coupons like it was a competitive sport. They used to say, "Do what you love and the rest will follow." I believed them. I still want to. But what if doing what you love slowly becomes doing what you can't stop doing? A friend texted me last week. "You're killing it, man." Living the dream, I stared at the message too long. Which dream did he mean? The one where I can't sleep because I'm worried about taxes? Or the one where I design for brands I don't believe in because the invoice pays the electric bill? Sometimes I close my eyes and imagine standing somewhere quiet. Maybe a beach, maybe just an open field, with no emails, no deadlines, no proof to send. But even in that fantasy, I'm thinking about whether I could afford to stay there. The window catches a ray of light from a neighboring building. It flares for a second, then softens. And I think about how even glass, something designed to be transparent, still reflects us back to ourselves. When did living become mostly reacting? When did I start measuring my value by how quickly I reply? I don't remember signing up for that. I took another sip of coffee, lukewarm now, and whispered to myself, what am I really doing with my life? The question doesn't feel dramatic anymore. It feels like maintenance, like cleaning your glasses so you can see what's already there. Out on the street, a bus brakes hard, hissing like it's tired too. The passengers inside look half asleep, faces lit blue by their phones. For a second, I imagine we're all looking into different windows asking the same quiet question. Spinoza would probably tell me that to understand is to be free. That clarity is its own kind of grace. I want to believe that. I want to understand why I keep chasing motion when what I crave is meaning. The plant by the window leans further toward the light. I tilt my head and realize I'm doing the same thing. Maybe that's a start, not an answer, just a small turning. I close my laptop halfway, just enough for my reflection to fade and the city to come back into view. The glass still holds both, what's outside and what's inside, and somewhere between them, me. The next morning, I opened the window just enough to feel the city's breath. Humid, caffeinated, impatient. Someone downstairs was arguing over a parking spot. The scent of a bagel cart drifted up anyway. I had 12 tabs open, 3 deadlines tangled, and a familiar rhythm of noise in my head. Emails, Slack pings, client messages, edits. Each one urgent, each one slightly meaningless. Could you make the blue more energetic? Could you deliver by EOD? I kept nodding like a bobblehead on a shaky dashboard. By 10 a.m., my shoulders were locked tight. The window, once a quiet witness, now mirrored my fatigue. Eyes dull, posture cave. I thought of Spinoza again, how he said people often fight for their servitude as if it were freedom. I laughed under my breath. Wasn't that exactly what I was doing? Defending my exhaustion like it proves something. There's a rhythm to overworking, a heartbeat synced to fear. Fear of slipping behind, of losing clients, of not making rent. The irony is I'd built this freelance freedom to escape control, yet here I was chained to my own hustle. At lunch, I joined the others in the shared workspace. We were a collage of dreamers and strugglers. Maya, a UX designer in her 40s, single mom of 2. Devin, a Gen Z motion artist who edits videos till dawn. Rob, a retired teacher trying to turn his love of woodworking into an online shop. And Aisha, a nurse taking a week off to finish a health app for caregivers. Different lives, same exhaustion. Maya scrolled through an email and sighed, I love my kids, but I'm never with them. I'm always halfway somewhere else. Devin mumbled without looking up. I made 5 TikToks last night. Got likes, not joy. Rob just said, it's harder starting over at 60 than I thought. Aisha added quietly, I see people burn out and come to the hospital with panic attacks. They think it's their heart. I listened and nodded, feeling how each of us carried our own version of invisible debt. Not just money, but proof. Proof we were still worth something. I read somewhere in The Atlantic earlier this year that Americans now work longer hours than almost any other developed nation, yet feel lonelier and more anxious than ever. It said our culture has replaced faith with productivity, that busy has become our badge of belonging. That line hit me harder than I expected. In a world obsessed with output, slowing down feels like betrayal. I'd built a career on being fast, responsive, available. When a client says jump, I ask, in what color? It's not just work, it's survival. The window's reflection kept following me that week. In the mornings, it showed a face drained of curiosity. At night, it caught the glow of my laptop long after everyone else had gone home. My plant began to wilt. I forgot to water it. On Thursday, during yet another urgent meeting, I muted my mic and watched my own reflection mouth the words everyone else was saying. Same tone, same script. It was eerie, like the window had become a movie I'd watched too many times. Scrolling through Instagram later, I saw a post that said, "You're not tired because you're doing too much. You're tired because you're doing too little of what matters." I stared at it for a long time. The comments were full of people confessing they didn't even know what mattered anymore. I could have written that myself. Friday night came with no celebration, just fatigue. I left the workspace late and walked home past glowing windows, offices still lit, delivery bikes darting like fireflies, everyone moving, no one resting. A street musician played a slow, haunting tune on the saxophone. I stopped for a moment, the sound cutting through the noise in my head. I wanted to drop my backpack right there, to let everything I carried spill out onto the pavement. But I didn't. I kept walking. That's the thing about inertia. It feels like safety. Saturday morning, I tried to take a day off, failed by 9 a.m. The guilt was too loud. You could be sending pitches, it said. You could be catching up. So I opened the laptop again. The window looked the same as always, streaked with dust, edges cracked. But something in it had changed. My reflection seemed farther away. That's when it hit me. This wasn't freedom. It was a gilded cage. A cage I decorated with productivity tools and motivational quotes, pretending the bars were optional. If I don't change now, I will lose myself. I said it out loud, softly, just to hear how it sounded. The words landed heavy in the room, like a truth that had been waiting. I thought about the people I'd seen this week. Maya, Devin, Rob, Aisha, all spinning in their own circles. None of us lazy, none of us free. Each of us living in the space between survival and self-forgetfulness. The plant by the window had curled into itself, yellowing at the tips. I touched one brittle leaf, felt it crumble between my fingers. The symbol was clear. I'd been pouring energy everywhere except where I needed it most. That night I dreamed of open fields, not escaping, just breathing. The kind of dream that feels like permission. When I woke, dawn was spilling through the window. For the first time, I didn't rush to check my phone. I just sat there, letting the light find me. Sunday came quiet. The city slept in, and the rain washed away its usual rush. I stayed by the window, the same one that had been judging me all week, and decided not to open my laptop. Just that, one small rebellion. Outside, a kid was jumping in puddles with red boots, his laughter echoing between buildings. Somewhere, a kettle whistled from an unseen apartment. The world was still turning without my contribution, and that felt radical. I made coffee, the real slow kind, where you wait for the bubbles to rise before pouring. The scent filled the room. I realized how long it had been since I'd done one thing at a time. My mug felt heavy in my hands, solid, like proof that the present moment still existed. All week, I'd been haunted by that thought. If I don't change now, I will lose myself. But change sounded too big, too expensive. What I needed was something smaller, closer. That's when I remembered Viktor Frankl's words. Even when everything is taken from us, one freedom remains, the freedom to choose our attitude. I didn't have control over clients or bills or algorithms, but I did have control over whether I let my own thoughts treat me like an employee. Maybe that was enough to start with. So I made a list, not a to-do list, just a to-notice list. The color of the rain, the way the plant leaned even after losing a few leaves. The hum of the city like a tired lullaby. Each observation slowed me down. Each one felt like taking a deep breath after years of shallow ones. At noon, I walked to the park. My sneakers squeaked on the wet sidewalk. Pigeons strutted near a food cart like they owned the place. I watched an older man feeding them bits of bread. He caught me looking and smiled. "They keep me company," he said. "Routine keeps me human." His words lingered. Maybe the problem wasn't routine itself. It was the kind of routine I'd chosen. Mine was made of reaction. His was made of care. A group of teenagers sat on a bench, huddled under one umbrella, laughing at something on a phone screen. Their joy was contagious. I found myself smiling too, the kind that starts small and then surprises you by staying. By the time I got back to my apartment, the rain had stopped. Light broke through the clouds and filled the room in warm, uneven patches. My window, still cracked, still smudged, looked softer somehow. I watered the plant for the first time in a week. The soil drank it up greedily, like forgiveness. Something inside me loosened. I didn't quit my job. I didn't move to the woods or delete all my apps. I just started choosing one thing a day to do with intention. Eat without scrolling. Say no without guilt. End the day without apology. It wasn't dramatic, but it was real. A few days later, I noticed the window reflecting less of me and more of the outside world. It wasn't that I'd disappeared. It's that I'd finally looked through it, not at it. That night, I stayed late in the workspace again. But this time, not to meet a deadline. I was helping Devin test his new video animation. "You ever think about quitting?" he asked. I thought for a second. "All the time," I said. "But maybe quitting isn't the point. Maybe the point is remembering why we started." He nodded slowly. "That's deep, man." I smiled. "It's borrowed." The next morning, I watched the sunrise from my desk. The light hit the plant, catching a new bud pushing through. I swear it hadn't been there yesterday. Spinoza's idea, understanding necessity, made sense in a new way now. The necessity wasn't the work or the bills. It was the need to feel alive while doing them. Meaning wasn't something grand. It was hidden in micro choices. A pause before replying, a walk before despair, a kindness to someone who doesn't expect it. I thought about Frankl surviving unimaginable darkness by finding purpose in small acts. He wrote that those who had a why could bear almost any how. Maybe my why didn't need to be heroic. Maybe it could just be honest. That night, I cleaned my desk, not out of obligation, but gratitude. Every receipt, every sketch, every forgotten coffee ring told a story of trying. I opened the window wider, let the cool air in, and turned off the lamp. The city lights blinked back like quiet stars. For the first time in months, I didn't feel behind. I felt present. The plant's leaves glistened in the half-light. My reflection was barely visible now, just a faint outline against the glow outside. The window didn't change. I did. And that felt enough like freedom to keep going. Monday morning came without fanfare. Just the kettle's steady hiss and the faint buzz of the city finding its rhythm again. My phone blinked on the counter, but I didn't reach for it. The urge to check had softened, like a muscle that finally stopped clenching. I poured coffee and carried it to the window, the same spot that had watched me unravel and rebuild. The sky was pale gold, streaked with clouds that looked like brushstrokes. I caught my reflection in the glass. Tired, yes, but peaceful in a way I hadn't been for months. Meaning, I was learning, doesn't arrive with trumpets. It shows up like light through dirty glass. Quiet, insistent, patient. I remembered something Henry David Thoreau wrote while living at Walden Pond. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life. I wasn't in the woods, but I understood that longing, to live deliberately. Maybe that's what I've been reaching for all along. Outside, the same man swept the sidewalk, same rhythm as always. The sound of the broom bristles dragging across concrete had become a kind of mantra. Behind him, a woman balanced 2 cups of coffee while wrangling her toddler. Across the street, the laundromat door chimed open and closed. The world wasn't waiting for my grand awakening. It just kept being itself, and somehow that was comforting. I used to think purpose was a mountain you climbed, something distant and impressive. But lately, it felt more like a garden, something you tend to daily, quietly, knowing it's never finished. Try this tonight. Instead of reaching for your phone, reach for stillness. Sit by a window, any window, and let the light or the dark remind you that you're part of something bigger than your deadlines. You don't have to fix everything before you can rest. The plant beside me had revived. Tiny new leaves had unfolded, bright and defiant. It looked like it had forgiven me for forgetting it. Maybe it understood that neglect is sometimes part of healing, that coming back is what counts. I thought about Maya with her kids, Devin chasing likes, Rob restarting at 60, Aisha caring for others while ignoring herself. Maybe we're all just trying to understand our necessity, to find the reason behind our motion. The hidden cost of not doing that is easy to miss. We lose our reflection long before we notice the glass. Now, when I sit here, I practice what Frankl called choosing our attitude. Some mornings that just means forgiving myself for needing coffee to start. Other days, it's remembering that freedom isn't about escaping work, but choosing how I meet it. Last week, a new client asked if I could handle a quick turnaround. I smiled and said, "Not if it means doing it badly." There was silence on the call, the kind that used to make me panic. But this time, I felt calm. The world didn't end. The project didn't disappear. I'd drawn a line and it held. That night, I left my desk at 6, walked to the park, and sat on a bench without checking the time. The sky was turning violet. A kid biked past, laughing. An old couple argued gently about which street had the better pizza. Life continued, unedited. I thought about how Spinoza and Frankl might have agreed on something. Understanding and meaning aren't luxuries, they're survival skills. Spinoza offered calm logic. Frankl offered human hope. Between them, I'd found enough air to breathe again. Freedom, I realized, isn't about having endless options. It's about seeing the truth clearly enough to choose one thing with love. At home, I opened the window wide. The air smelled faintly of rain and street food. My plant swayed slightly in the breeze. I looked through the glass, not at it, and felt the pulse of the city below. The laundromat lights blinked. Someone was singing badly to an old pop song. I smiled. Here's what stayed with me. Purpose doesn't need applause. It doesn't live at the top of a ladder or the bottom of an inbox. It hides in the ordinary, waiting to be noticed. The steady sweep of a broom, the warmth of a mug, the way sunlight keeps showing up even when you don't. You don't have to chase a new life. You can love the one you already have into something freer. Tomorrow, there will still be bills. There will still be deadlines. But there will also be this window and this quiet and the reminder that awareness itself is a form of freedom. So try this tonight. Close whatever window glows on your screen and sit with the one that lets the world in. Watch the light fade. Let it show you what's still alive in you. The air will hum with ordinary sounds, traffic, laughter, the neighbor's TV, and in that mix, you might feel something shift. Not everything, just enough. When the last bit of sunlight leaves the glass, it leaves a reflection for only a moment before the night takes it back. That's how it is with meaning. It flickers, but it returns. I finish my coffee, now cold but still comforting, and whisper to the dark, I'm still here, still learning, still choosing. The city exhales. Somewhere below, a broom starts sweeping again. And in the faint reflection of the window, I see not the worker, not the achiever, just a person, alive and awake in their small, deliberate life.